Hello guys, and welcome to the explanation part of this video. I'm super excited to explain this effect to you because it's literally one of my favorite impromptu effects to perform nowadays, where you take a deck of cards, shuffle it up, and the spectator does all the work. And all the work means they make all the decisions and they feel like they create the magic in the effect that's happening. Things to keep in mind while I'm explaining this is that there's a lot of different variations and tangents where you could go off, because the effect and the method is very simple and you'll be picking it up in no time. So keep in mind that when I say things like the card is controlled to the bottom, you can control it to the top, palm it off from the top, you can control it to the bottom and palm it off from the bottom. So it depends on how you feel comfortable doing the sleights that you need, and there's very minimal sleights that this effect has. All it is a control and a palm, and then it's just your pattern and how you make it feel like the decision is all the spectators till the very end. So things to keep in mind is nonchalant nature of it doesn't matter, I'm going to take the cards and let's see what happens, you're going to do all the decisions. So as you keep that in mind throughout the performance and the explanation of this effect, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Let's go through them step by step of how to control the card, how to palm and switch the piles from the card being controlled from one pile to the other, and then at the end the final decision, and which is the magician's choice. But you'll see throughout the effect of how the final decision makes a lot of sense in their eyes, and all the power and all the impact goes down to that one final decision. So as long as you have that in your head and you're ready to learn this, let's get into it right now. Thank you very much. I'm Alex Pandrea, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay guys, let's get into the effect right now. Now I love this effect because it started off as an impromptu feel and I just sort of made it up as I went along. Then getting the reactions that I did, I put it together into this routine. And it does have a little bit of jazzing going along, so we're going to take you through step by step as much as we can, but just keep in mind that as we go through the routine, the steps could tangent off into your own variations, and you could have the card under your control the whole time to have the ending or the deal sequence as you wish. So the method to this is very simple. We're going to control the card in the easiest way possible to the top or bottom of the pack, and that depends on you. So I'm going to show you how I do it. The first step is very simple. I'm going to take you through the method right now of what happens at the end, how I do it. So a card is named from the pack, yes? The cards are shuffled and a card is named, right? As the card is named, you're going to look for the card, right? And I'm going to take you through this really fast right now, and then we'll go into detail. So I'm looking for the card. Let's say it's the 7 of spades. So I find the card, and I'm going to palm it off as I give it to the spectator to shuffle. So I give the spectator to shuffle, and you palm it off in your favorite method. The spectator shuffles as much as they want, and then I replace it on the bottom of the pack. Now the card is on the bottom of the pack, and I'm going to say, so from a shuffled pack, I'm going to deal, and you're going to say stop anywhere you want. They say stop, say over here. Now you split the packet in two, and you say, now your card could either be in this packet or in this packet. Correct? Yes. Now chances are it's over here because there's more cards, but do you think that your card is in this packet or this packet? Now here is what you have to remember. The card is on the bottom over here, yes? So they're going to name a packet. If they name this packet, if they name this packet first, then you're going to remove all the cards from here where it's not, in a clean manner. If they say it's in this packet or the packet that it's not in, because you know it's on the bottom, you're going to need to transfer the card, the selected card, to the packet they named. This is why I like to do it from the bottom. So the card is on the bottom of the packet, and I'm going to use a bottom palm to transfer it to this packet as I pick it up. Okay? Now if you feel more comfortable of palming it from the top and replacing it on the top and palming it from the top, you can well do that as well, where you palm it from the top and you do this. But for me, I like to have it on the bottom, palm it from the bottom as I move it here, and we'll get into more details of that in just a second. So let's say they choose that they think it's over here. You're going to discard the rest of the pack over here, and again it's on the bottom, so we're going to retain that stock as we say. We're going to do it again, and we're going to give it a little shuffle. I'm going to deal, and they say stop anytime they want. Now the packets are more even. You say, oh, do you think your card is in this pile or this pile? Again, if they say this pile, you're going to come here and you say it's not over here. So you're going to palm and move it to this packet. If they say they think it's over here, you say perfect, we're going to get rid of this. This is your decision, and you're going to make all these decisions. I'm going to shuffle again and retaining that bottom stock. they deal, you deal, and they say stop somewhere, boom. And again, now we're getting more into 50-50 range. They name a packet, they say this pile. I'm going to grab this, transfer the bottom card as I pick this card up and say we don't need them. Now it's on the top, so now I have a choice. I could either shuffle it to the bottom, or since it's on the top, you can just start dealing straight away. This is up to you, and of course we'll get into that a little bit later on. Let's say it's on the top and I keep it on the top. I deal, they say stop. Now it's very interesting because if they feel that they keep saying one pile or another, to change it up, now you don't have to do the move if they say on this pile. You literally take all these cards, dump them out over there, now you just have a few cards. And you do this, so on and so forth, until you get to the last, let's say the last two. And from here, we're going to use Magician's Choice in a very, very clever way to get to the one card over there. So that's the overall method, and I went through that quickly, but I want to take you through that step by step with the palming, with the finding the card of what they name, and the final ending of how to make this look really, really random and really impromptu, like you don't know what's going on, and the spectator themselves finds the selected card. So that's the intro. Now let's get into detailed explanations. Okay, so the first part of this effect is having them name a card and you controlling it to a position where you know, and ultimately palming it off for them to shuffle. Now the way that I do it, and of course you could use your favorite method for this, but I'll show you my preference to do it. I never like to have them pick a card to begin with. The reason for this, and I've mentioned it many times throughout my videos, and if you've seen me lecture, I always make a point of this, is I don't like to have them just pick a card because it looks like every other card trick, correct? And especially in this effect, I have them name a card. Name a card that is your favorite card or something that means something to you. I say this because then they don't forget the card, and I use this in many effects. To go through and find the card, it's very easy. I literally go through, and my point, my pattern being, I'm going to try to look for the card so I can see where it is, because you're going to try to find the card, not me. And I use this many times to look through the card, and this is tilted up so the spectator doesn't see, but I'll give you an exposed view. They say the 7 of spades, okay? So the 7 of spades is over here, and we'll place it in the middle. You're going to literally don't know where it is, look through the pack, and control the 7 of spades as you find it, in my case to the top, or wherever you feel comfortable palming it off. So if you palm it off from the bottom, control it to the bottom. If you palm it off from the top, control it to the top. So 7 of spades is here. The way I do it to get to the top is one of 3 ways. I cull the card as I see it, right? And as I start to pull, I turn to the spectator and I say, now I think I know where it is, but to make it even harder, you shuffle, and that's when I palm it off. The second way to do it is I look through the pack, and I get a break, and I do a turnover pass as I place the cards down, and the card is on top. The third way, a nice way of doing it, is just cutting the deck. So you could have the card here, get a break, and say, get a break, and then you're going to cut the pack so that 7 is on the bottom, and continue cutting, do some running cuts, and now you have the 7 of spades here. If you want to get it to the bottom, now you just literally, the way I would do it is get the card, get a break above it, and do a turnover pass, because you don't want to cut it here, they see the card. So I do a turnover pass, or I tilt the cards here and I start shuffling, so the card is here. So in any way that you want to do it, have the card to where you feel comfortable palming it off. The second step is to palm it off and give it to them to shuffle. So my preference is I do a diagonal palm shift as I give out the deck from the top, and that could be learned in my diagonal palm shifts video on the Blue Crown, or in Expert at the Card Table, of course. It's said that you can do a diagonal palm shift from anywhere in the deck. So I like to do it from the top as I give the cards out to be shuffled. And I say, we'll make it more interesting, shuffle up the pack. They shuffle the pack, and I'm going to replace the card on the bottom when it's done. So after all this, I want to get the card that they named to the bottom. Okay? If you have the card on the bottom after you control it, then you can do a gambler's cock or a bottom palm, give out the cards to be shuffled. This is in your hand, and as you place the cards back, you replace it on the bottom, and you're good to go. Okay? So that is the first position of where you want to do it when you start the dealing procedure. Okay, another version to start this effect where they name a card and you get it in the position where you need it, which is on the bottom, is instead of palming it off, which I understand that some people might not like to palm off a card and be dirty while they shuffle up the pack, which is totally understandable. Another way to do it is using a crimp. So they name a card, you're going to crimp the card in such a way so that when you take the deck back, you can cut it to the bottom and you could be set right away so that your hands are empty when you explain what's going to happen and you take the deck back. So the easiest way to do this, I use just a corner crimp where you take the card and you bend it down just like this. Now I'm exaggerating for the camera so that you can see, but when the card is in the middle, you'll have that. Now the cool thing about this is that when it's here and you take the cards back, you can just cut at the break and now it's at the bottom. And when you spread over here, I can take off the crimp if you want so, but in the dealing procedure it will naturally come out as you use the deck more. But the way to do that is they name a card, say it's the 5 of hearts, and we're going to do the same method where you're here. All I'm going to do is as I find and I see the card, as I square up, my pinky of my right hand is going to push in and it crimps that card this way. It crimps the card this way, and that's all I have to do. And as you can see now, the card is crimped, and when you cut to it, it comes to the bottom. Okay, so this is what happens some of the times, and you'll get lucky and it'll be super clean if this happens because of the crimp and that the way that the spectator shuffles. Now laymen, they don't shuffle like we do to do a riffle shuffle, a pharaoh shuffle, or any of that, so they usually just do one of these, right? And it's basically cutting the deck. Now the way a crimp works is that because of the crimp, you can naturally cut it to wherever the crimp is made to be cut. So if it's made to be cut to the bottom, so let's take, for example, the 2 of clubs. I'm going to crimp it just like this, and it gets shuffled into the pack. Now the spectator, let's say the crimp is right there. The spectator is going to shuffle, yes? And sometimes what will happen is that, let's do it this way. Let's see if it happens with me. I get the crimp, and they're going to cut the crimp to the bottom. So now what happened here, because I'm just used to handling cards or so, but a lot of the times when I do this effect, I give them the spectator the deck, and as they shuffle, and as I take the deck back, a lot of the times it's either on the top or bottom, so you could use that to your advantage. And as you saw in the trailer, I noticed that as she named the card, it was on the bottom, and I used it full advantage by placing the deck down, and I didn't touch it, and I went into the dealing procedure. Now something that I use to my advantage is not so much of a pre-show that you would consider a pre-show work, but it's more of a reminder. And what that is, and if you've seen in the trailer, it worked perfectly. I asked the spectator beforehand in a different trick, what's your favorite card? Something that you could remember, something that stands out. Now that phrase right there I use all the time because it conditions them to say one card and one card only. So say it's the 2 of clubs for this case. Their favorite card is the 2 of clubs, and you keep that in mind, okay? And now you're going to crimp it. So again, it's this in your favorite method, and it's somewhere in the center of the pack. Now when you give it to them and you say shuffle, you have them look you in the eye. So, just in case people think that people see this crimp, they don't. But just in case, you're going to ask them, now please, just while you shuffle up the cards, there's 52 cards, but you have a favorite card, right? Can you name your favorite card, something that means something to you, something that stands out? And that gets them, again, to say that the card that you already know that you've crimped from the beginning. So that's a very nice, clean, hands-off way to get the selection that you know beforehand into their hands, and now they name it for the rest of the audience. And now you could take the deck back, and if they shuffle it to the bottom, that's great. If not, you just look for the crimp, cut it to the bottom as you say, okay, this is what's going to happen. You just named the card and you just shuffled up the pack. So that's a very, very nice, clean beginning to the effect where they name a card, they shuffle, they bring the cards back, and you start the next step, which is the dealing procedure. So enjoy that. Now you're in position to start the dealing procedure. I'm going to pick up the cards, and you know that the card is on the bottom. They don't, of course. You're going to tell them, I'm going to deal the cards like this, and you're going to stop me anywhere you want. And they do that, and they say stop anywhere, and you're going to split the packet in 2 portions. Now, you're going to say the card is somewhere here. Do you think it's in this pile or in this pile? Now the trick comes in of how to take the card from the bottom and move it over here. Now I played with a few ways to do it, of as I do this, I can get a break and place the card over here, but I feel that in any case, the easiest way to do it is to get just a bit of misdirection and bottom palm the card, so pushing it off from here and transferring here as you pick up this pile. Now the way to do that is this. You have the card on the bottom. If they name this pile, okay, and this could be in any of the procedure, in any of the dealing sequences, either this one or the next one or the next one, because there would be 3 or 4 throughout the effect. You're going to pick up this pile, the one that they didn't name, and you say, okay, you don't think it's in this pile. As I come with the cards in sort of a biddle grip from my right hand to my left fingers push out the bottom card, and you're in this position, right? So as it comes here, I do this, and now you're halfway done already. Now to palm it off, I just literally push down with my left pinky in the top right corner of that bottom card and push up with my fingers, and I'm going to get it into here, right? I don't do a super full palm because my packets are close together, and I'm just going to literally come from here to here as I pick up this pile, okay? And that transfers it here. So in slow motion again, this is all messy over here. You have the card on the bottom, so you don't think it's in this pile. Boom, halfway there, push up, transfer as I pick up this, and I say I'm going to get rid of the cards here. Now the selected card is here. Now of course if they say, and this is what happens most of the time I realize in my performance, is that when you get here and there's more cards here than here, they're going to say this pile. So for the first part, you might not have to worry about doing the transfer. But in any case, you know what to do when they do say the other pile. So they're going to name a pile, say they say this one, you say fine, I'm going to get rid of the cards from there. And of course this is your decision. Now I pick up the cards and I'm going to shuffle again and start the dealing procedure. Now what I've done there is I've retained the bottom card. And we're going to go through this a couple more times, so let's do that now. Alright, so now you've done the first dealing procedure, and we're going to do this a couple more times, 3 or 4 times throughout the effect until you run out of cards. And through every phase, I like to pick up the cards, the ones that are remaining, these are the discard pile, and shuffle and start to deal again. And all I'm doing is retaining the bottom card for that. So I pick up the cards and I just grab with the fingers here, and as I shuffle, do an overhand shuffle, I grab the bottom card and I leave it there. Okay, you could do false shuffles at this point, it really doesn't matter, but I just literally take the cards like I don't care what's going on, I don't know, I don't care, and they're gonna start, I'm gonna start the deal and they're gonna say stop again. So here we are with the second procedure. You can do them in chunks, they say stop, boom, and you get over here. Alright, now again, they're gonna name a pile of where they think their card is in, and have them make this decision, because they're making every decision and you want them to understand that this is their decision. You have no idea, you have no control of what's going on. They name a packet. So again, remember, if they say this packet, you're going to have to transfer the bottom card from here to here. If they say this packet, you say fine, you get rid of the cards. So let's get rid of these cards over here. And again, I pick up the cards and I shuffle, retaining that bottom card. And you're going to do this so on and so forth until it gets more interesting. So they say stop. You're going to say fine, where do you think it's in? Now they're going to say over here. I'm going to grab the cards, say, so you don't think it's in this pile? How confident are you that it's over here? And I get that one little misdirection where they look up at your face. I push this over, I grab it, and I transfer it over here. Now, in every case that where you do this and you have the card on top, you can do one of two things. You can start dealing to confuse them that the card is always in the left packet, yes, and now it's over here. Or you can stick to your guns and from here that it's on the bottom, from it's on the top, I'm going to shuffle it to the bottom again. So I run one card and I shuffle it and deal again. So however you feel comfortable, I always like to keep it on the bottom. Sometimes I mix it up near the end, but honestly I don't do it that often. I always keep it just on the bottom. So they deal, I deal, and they say stop, and again you're here. Now it's very important once you get to the final cards to not expose exactly how many cards there are in each pile, because that's important, and you'll see that in the next section. So you're going to get to this point until you have very few cards remaining. So say they say it's in this pile, you're going to palm the card off again. It's over here. I shuffle, so the card is on the bottom, and now we're here. Now when you get to about, maybe 10 cards, you're going to get into the last phase of this, and it's really going to, you're going to have to think about this just for a second, because the ending of this effect depends on how many cards are left in the final deal. So we're going to get into the ending and the last magician's choice that will wrap it all up right now. So let's get into that. So now you've got a position of where you only have maybe about 10 cards left. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards left. Now you want to end where you have the card and only 2 cards left. Okay, this is your final position of where you want to get it from. Now from here, from 10 cards to get down to here, you have a couple of options, and this is honestly going to depend on the spectator of what they choose at the end and how you play with it. So here are a couple of options of what could happen. From here, you're going to have them say stop somewhere. Now, what you don't want to happen is have them do this and they say stop where you have 3 cards remaining in the left hand, where the card actually is, or vice versa. And the reason for this is just because if you're here and they say, let's give you this example. Say they say stop over here on 3 cards, okay? If they say this pile right now, they see 3 cards over here because they stopped you after 3 cards. Now palming this card off, now that makes 4 cards in this pile, and that's 1 card more than they know that is there. So that's a little bit tricky. Now again, let's say we take a few cards back and the card is on the bottom and they deal over here, yeah? Say they say stop on, let's say 2 cards, okay? And they say it's over here. Now you're going to need to discard, and this is not much of a problem as the other one was, but you're going to have to take this card, palm it off here and say I'm going to get rid of these. But again, now you're getting rid of only 1 card, and of course that's not good either. So how do we compensate for that? Card is on the bottom. Say they say stop over here, okay? Now what's going to happen? You want to even out the piles at this point, and you say we're going to make it a little bit more interesting. Once they say stop and before they choose a pile, you want to take cards from one side to the other to make it even, okay? So now I'm going to say let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's do that. And I literally pick up a few and I make it even at this point, okay? So that would make more cards here just in case you have to take this card and place it onto here, okay? So if that makes sense, we can do it vice versa as well. Say they say stop, right? And you have 3 cards over here, right? You say we're going to make it a little bit more interesting. Where do you think that the card is in, okay? And you can take these cards here and shuffle up at this point too, right? To really make it feel random. Say they say this pile, fine. Or if they say this pile, you take the card and you move it here, right? That's the procedure. Now you have the card on top. I shuffle. Now it's on the bottom again. Now you want to, when you get down to the wire, you want to deal so that you only have 2 cards in one, all right? So the magician's choice happens on the last one or the last one and the previous to the last one. So this is what's going to happen. Say they say stop after the 4th card, and you can time this. Go ahead, say stop, stop. Right? Now you're left with 2 cards and 4 cards, all right? You want them to choose the pile because, again, this is your position at the end. You want them to be with 2 cards over here. Say they choose over here, they choose to say stop over here with 2 cards being left on the left. You want them to go for this pile, right? So now you say, go ahead, pick up a pile yourself, all right? Now this is good because this switches from the norm of saying which pile do you think your card is in. You just say pick up a pile yourself. Now if they pick up this pile, I say get rid of it. If they say this pile, you say, okay, you sure? Good, and this is going to be the final, the finale with the 2 cards, and they're going to place 1 down, which you've seen in the performance. But let's say they go with this pile, all right? You say pick up a pile, And if you see them choosing this pile, you right away say and get rid of it. Pick up a pile and discard it yourself. I don't want to do anything. This is your decision. All right. So we're here. Say stop. Stop. Okay. Pick up a pile yourself. Go ahead, get rid of it. As you see, they're grabbing this pile. Go ahead, get rid of it. I don't want to do anything. This is your decision. And now you're left over here. Okay. If you get to here, right? Again, if there's 3 cards, say we'll make it more interesting. Say we're down to here, we'll make it more interesting. Where do you think your card is in? I guess in this case it doesn't matter. Get the card over here, but you really want to get to this final position where there's 2 cards in one with the card selection here and here. So if they name this pile, then you're in luck. You say, okay, there's 2 more cards left. And I get to the ending. So once again, just to, because I know this is the only part that could be tricky for you and you have to jazz a little bit here. You have the cards here. You know you have a few cards left. So if they say stop, boom, right there, it's fine. You could do the same procedure as we've done before. But if they say, if you could time it perfectly at this point, I like to leave with 2 cards on the left. So I spread, I get a break, and that just helps me out. Say stop, stop. And as they say stop, I get rid of all the cards except 2. Now I say now it's interesting. Which pile? Just pick one up. This is going to be up to you. Say they go for this one, pick one up, just get rid of it. Yeah, doesn't matter. This is up to you. Leaving 2 cards, and now for the finale. So if that makes sense, play around with it up to now so you're sure that you're going to get down to 2 cards where the bottom card is a selected card and every other card is discarded. If you've done that right, you should be able to get to the ending, and that's what we're going to go into right now, how to make this seem like it's their choice to the very last card. So let's get into the ending where there's 2 cards. Great. So you've made it this far where you've shuffled, they've decided which cards to discard. Everything has been their choice until now. And now we're going to get to the very last one. And this is a very, very nice moment where you can play around with it. Now it's going to be Magician's Choice for the last 2. Okay? And the structure of this is you can get rid of everything else except for 2 cards. And you can talk about, and the way I do it is I talk about decisions and how you make your decisions based on instinct. And I do a little bit of cold reading and say you're more of an intuitive person where a lot of your decisions are made on instinct, yes? And if you have the pattern down, you can make this a very visual, very emotional moment where they have to choose because everything is riding on their decision. So I won't get into that too much. I'll show you the ways that I do it to get to the very last one. The way I do it now, and before, what I used to do is have them place both their hands on both cards, okay? Then I say when you're ready and only when you're ready, and you know that the card is on the left. Or you can mix it up and have the card on the right. One thing that you don't want to do is lose track of the card because you don't want to be looking for taking a peek or anything. You want the faces of the cards to not be shown throughout the whole effect. So you know that the card is on the left. You can take the cards, mix them up, and have them on the right, but you just have to know where the card is. If you don't know where the card is, then you have a problem with the effect, and it's literally going to be a 50-50 at this point. So I know that the card, let's say, is on the left at this case. One way to do this final is have them take both their hands, put them on both cards, all right? Now from here, you're going to say, and only when you're ready, take as long as you want, you're going to lift up your hand from any of the packets. And they do that. Now here is this version. If they lift up their hand off of this one, yes, then this is going to be the selected card because this is where the card is, all right? If they lift their hand off of this one, you say, fine, leave your hand on this card. We're going to get rid of this, right? So in any case, we're forcing this one over here. So both hands on the pack, on both cards, and only when you want, take as long as you want, you're going to lift your hand off of one. And they take their time and they lift their hand. You say, yeah, grab that card and get rid of it. This has all been your decision, yes? And you reinstate that. And at the finale, they turn over the card and that's it. If they lift their hand off of the other one, you say, lift your hand off of one. You sure? Keep your hand on that one, don't move. You get rid of that. Without saying, I'm going to get rid of this. You just literally get rid of it because this makes sense. Go ahead, and you get that reveal. So that's the first way to do it, which I really, really like, and that's what I did until the way that I did now. So here's the second ending of this effect. Okay, the second method of doing the finale is the one that I do now, and 100% credit goes to Aussie Wind. I've seen him do this in his workshop, and I thought it was perfect for this trick because before I did the method that we just went over, and he talked about this version, and I think it summed it all up to make this a genius effect. So the way that it works is that when you have two cards right here, you will force the bottom one by having them in their hands, and you give it to the spectators. And this is great because the spectator holds the cards in their hands. Yes? They will do one action, and the action is dropping a card onto the table. Now, this equivoque, or Magician's Choice, is brilliant because if they drop this card, the non-selection, onto the table, it's almost as if they're getting rid of it. And the card in their hand is a selected card, okay? If they drop this card onto the table, they made the decision to do that, as in that's the card. They don't know what's going to happen just yet, but each action is justified by putting emphasis on that's the card after the fact. So here are the two options. The two cards are in their hands, and you say take as long as you want. You're going to make this decision yourself. Whenever it feels right, you're going to drop one card to the table. You don't say that's going to be the card or that's not going to be the card. You say you're going to drop one card onto the table, and you make it powerful at this point. They take their time, and they drop one card onto the table. And if they hold their selection, because you know where their selection is, you say, without saying anything, you decided to hold on to that one card, and you get rid of this card. You decided to get rid of that. Hold on to one card from all 52 cards. One card is in your hand. Take a look at it. Boom. And it's there. If they drop this card onto the table, then you say, literally without saying anything, you take this card from their hand while looking down on this card, and you say you decided to drop one card and one card only onto the table. Out of all the 52 cards, you made all the decisions at this point. You've left with one card and one card only. The 7 of Spades. I take a peek at it, I take my time, and I reveal the card. Okay guys, there you have it. That's the finale of the effect from beginning to end. Things to keep in mind is that throughout the whole effect, you have to have a nonchalant behavior to the dealing procedure, to the shuffling procedure, that it doesn't matter what happens, the decisions are theirs. Until you get to the last two cards. Now the last two cards, you want to put emphasis on it and really bring the power of the whole effect to a conclusion, where you say, now take your time as long as you want. This is the final decision. You've done great until now, and make the decision. Drop one card or lift your hand on whatever ending you want to do. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and that also, because you want to control the card from one pile to the other, that's why the behavior in the beginning, it's, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's your decisions, okay? We'll go with it, boom, until the last one. So keep that in mind and play with it. Now, of course, this could tangent into many different variations. I've shown you my preference of how to do it, having it controlled to the top, palming it off the way I do it, and placing it to the bottom. Think of it this way. What if you control it to the bottom, palm it off, bring it back to the bottom, and then say you have the card on top in your dealing procedure. Now if you deal on the top, from the top, you switch up each dealing procedure of having them in your left hand all the time, the bottom, right, the selected card on the bottom. You could start with it on top, deal, and now it's on the right hand pile. So if you see the spectator leaning towards one pile all the time, you can switch it up there. So that's another way to think about it. So the palming, the dealing of how you take the card from one pile to the other, that's up to you. Again, I showed you the way that I do it. I hope you take it into your own style and make it your own. Other than that, I really want you to play around with it and think of really honing in the idea of having a shuffled pack and each decision is their own until we get down to one and one final one, because that is the point where they're really going to be nervous of they've done so well, right? Because you're encouraging them from beginning to end to make that last decision, and you really want to put emphasis on it. So if you do all those steps, I think you'll have a very powerful routine, and I hope you like it. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me through the Blue Crown website or through Facebook. And again, this is an effect that can tangent off into many different ways. So don't be limited of what I taught you now. Take it and make it your own. And other than that, thank you very much for taking a look and taking the time to learn this effect. I'll see you next time. My name is Alex Pandrea, and have a good one.